As part of the promotional material released for Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, the actor playing Newt Scamander, his name is Eddie Redmayne, said something that had me thinking. He says, this movie is about having faith in Dumbledore and his plan. I'm rephrasing that, of course, but the gist of what he says is that our crew of unlikely heroes must have faith in Albus Dumbledore and his shifting plan in order for them to have any hope of facing down Gellert Grindelwald. This faith is almost necessary. This statement had me considering the character of Albus Dumbledore and the people who follow him. See, this movie is a cautionary tale against following visionaries on the mere basis of charisma and the promise of a better future. Gellert is reminiscent of Hitler. With this in mind, don't you think it makes an interesting contrast with Albus Dumbledore? I mean, why is Albus worthy of being followed and Gellert falls short? Despite the fact that Albus is technically good and Gellert is the villain of the story. This video explores all of that with a heavy focus on Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. Titles. In the original Harry Potter series, Albus Dumbledore is the mysterious old wizard. His Harry is Gandalf, the mentor figure in his hero's journey. From the very moment Harry reads his name off of a chocolate card, we get the sense that this is a powerful man, worthy of both respect and awe. He has this string of accomplishments that have most people believing him to be the greatest wizard of the age. At Hogwarts, he seems a bit eccentric, with occasional flair of flamboyance. This picture persists all throughout the year, but it's in the final scenes that the first few red flags are raised up. We realize that Dumbledore abandoned Harry as a baby to his aunt. He literally left him at the doorstep. I mean, that's a trope. All of this could be forgiven, but somehow he never got around to checking on that little kid in all those years. In addition, it would seem that Dumbledore knew exactly what he was doing with the whole mirror of very sad thing, baiting the shade of the most powerful dark wizard of the age with a trap set in a school. Didn't it occur to him that children will be at risk of getting caught up in the crossfire? It's pretty irresponsible for a headmaster, don't you think? It's things like this that have earned Albus Dumbledore plenty of, do I call them haters? Just people who don't agree with his methodology and reasoning. I've had some really inventive puns and monikers. I ran into this one at one point. By the time that most intrepid of reporters, Rita Skeeter, publishes her debut work, The Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore, he's already one of the most polarizing characters in the series. And not without reason. Really, there's a long list of charges that readers could bring against him, but let's limit it to a few of the most glaring. He didn't prepare Harry for his destiny. There wasn't, any special training or gifting of particularly powerful weapons or impacting of skills. And then you realize that the guy is just juggling too much. He's a headmaster, he's a chief warlock, and then he's a supreme magwamp. These gigs are all too taxing. Come to think of it, he wasn't very successful at any of them, was he? I mean, the biggest stain is probably that moment when a whole house suddenly turns out to be junior Death Eaters. I mean, it's weird on its own, but a sizable amount of that blame probably falls at this man's feet. I could mention how he's manipulative, but that's not a failing, really. All mentor figures tend to be manipulative of their charges. I'm looking at you, Morinda, Mordred of the Wheel of Time, and you, I don't know who from which story. There are a lot more of this, but I'll leave them to you guys, my viewers. One of the most interesting parts of being a Potterhead is seeing how this character has been reimagined by fans. Yes. You're already aware that tons of fanfiction have been written about the wizarding world. It's mostly because of that nostalgia that this series brings to bear. Dune by Frank Herbert or even The Wheel of Time, they're great stories in their own right. but they don't make my gut clench in anticipation. This was an introduction to the whole fantasy genre, and it bears a lot of emotional weight. But that's a whole different conversation. So most fanfic authors take the opportunity to bash Dumbledore. They make him manipulative and cold, or manipulative and old, or they have him turn out to be a villain or the next Dark Lord. That prophecy about Harry vanquishing the Dark Lord, maybe that Dark Lord was Dumbledore. Yeah, I know it's needlessly convoluted, but that's the beauty of it. The point is that while inept Dumbledores dominate much of fanfiction, the really intriguing ones are the ones where he's a lot more grey but still good. I mean, he's still playing the game. He's manipulative, yes, but also ultimately a good guy. And he's a man with failings, but he's not an idiot. Shout out to the best of them all, at least in my humble opinion. Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. That was a Dumbledore that deserves a hat tip. And now let's talk about Dumbledore in the context of faith and trusting. As a kid reading this story, you really do trust this guy, but as you grow more jaded, trust isn't something you are ready to hand out to characters so easily. There are those instances where Harry has to put his faith in Dumbledore and really declare himself as a faithful follower. Of course, all of that is dashed when Harry learns that his mentor is human, the Order of the Phoenix, and then we have the following scenes in the Half-Blood Prince. But eventually they do reconcile, don't they? Maybe it's the fact that I'm currently lost in the weird world of Dune, or just that I'm way more critical of this sort of blind trust, but it just seems awfully weird to me. Dune has all this stuff going on about how you're supposed to be an individual. Put no faith in higher powers, be they those of government or religion or charismatic leaders, about how the individual should master themselves, but it's also about how the race is an organism that seeks to save itself from stagnation. Complex things Dune is talking about here, but I guess those are the thoughts that are running through my mind. So, to me, in many ways, Albus and Gellert are similar. They're both brilliant young men who will stop at nothing to be the best. Gellert seeks knowledge and power and whatnot, while Dumbledore really dissociates himself from his messed up family situation. He wants to carve out a place for himself among the stars of his age. It's ambitious, but who can blame him? Then they meet, and before too long they're hitting it up and making plans for world domination. Magic is might, and those miserable muggles have no right to send us into hiding when we are clearly better than they are. One of the most curious things about Dumbledore is the tragic incident with Ariana. An argument between Albus and his brother and Gellert dissolves into a full-blown duel. They're throwing killing curses apparently. Then poor Ariana bursts in at exactly the wrong moment. This literally shapes Dumbledore's life, and he decides that power is not for him. Weird, sort of, because he ends up becoming the most powerful person in the world, or at least a very powerful individual with a lot of influence, and yet he does very little with that power. This moment is to blame. I think so. Were it not for this terrible tragedy, it's very possible that Albus and Gellert would have turned into this evil power couple, taking over the world. Instead, Albus scuttles off to Hogwarts and tries to keep himself away from temptation. Literally. So, is Albus Dumbledore worthy of this faith and trust that people heap upon him? He's hailed as the greatest wizard of the age, the champion of the light. He's not a muggle hater, I'll give him that. And he is a great leader, at least he is inspiring. But is he worthy? The thing is, I don't really know what answer to say to this. I don't even know if this is a worthy point to raise. It's just something that really hits me, or rather that something that hit me when I heard Eddie Redmayne say that. I was like, wow, really? Does Dumbledore deserve that? Or I don't know, something about the phrasing just hit me. So, do not hesitate to tell me your opinion. This is a carrot and I'm dangling it in front of you all. So head down in the comments, tell me what you think of Dumbledore's character, Dumbledore's worthiness as a leader. The moment in Fantastic Beasts where the chilling bows before Dumbledore and says, and technically it's as though the story is telling us that Dumbledore is worthy of being a leader. Is he though? Is he though? Because people have raised the question and they've said that there have been better options. I mean, what if the children had bowed to, say, our favorite Nomage? Anyway, tell me your thoughts, and don't be shy, don't hesitate, book that subscribe button, like the video, and welcome aboard.